I'm Abrielle Millett for BYU-Idaho Radio, and today I'm here with Isaac Payne. He's the owner of PAC Jiu-Jitsu, and he'll be speaking at the Business Skills and Networking Forum that is happening on June 17th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Before we get into kind of, I guess, what you'll be speaking on in this forum, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I mean, and I want to thank you for having me because radio is actually my first love. Like that was my first real job was in radio. And,
No way.
I loved it. So I did like my senior year of high school, year or so after, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. But my real professional background is in law enforcement. I did that for a couple decades, and you get really good at talking to people, or at least you should. And that's where a lot of this stuff that I teach comes about, not just on the jiu-jitsu side, but also in the communication side. And so that's my background in that. I got really into crisis communication. I do that privately now all over the world. So I do crisis comms, which if you don't know is it's like PR on steroids. It's really intense stuff. When people have a bad day, they usually call me to make it sound better. So that's really what I do professionally. And of course I teach jiu-jitsu all day, every day, but I love that as well.
No, that's super fun. That's cool to hear your background and the different things, especially with communications, because I'm studying communications, and I think they have a class similar to that. I think it's called conflict resolution is what they call it, something that probably deals with it.
It all starts with that. And it kind of grows from there. But yeah, it's all the same good communication principles, you know?
Yeah.
But I went to BYU-Idaho. I graduated a long time ago. But then I did my master's at Johns Hopkins, and now I do all this stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. For your jiu-jitsu, it's such a hard word to say.
It's a tough word to say.
How did you start the PAC? Is that what you call it?
Yeah. PAC Jiu-Jitsu is my baby, and I started. I used to do mixed martial arts. I did a lot of competitive stuff like that growing up, and I got into law enforcement, and those skills became very prevalent. And I was like, man, I need to really get good at this stuff. So I was wrestling people at work long before they made cops wrestle and do jiu-jitsu on people. So I was that weird cop that wrestled everybody, and now they all have to learn it. So there's a little bit of vindication there. So I spent a lot of time not just teaching regular folks like you and I, but also I train a lot of law enforcement around here. Pretty much every law enforcement person in this area has gone through one of my classes.
Oh, that's super cool. I imagine it would be intimidating at first to join a class. I guess, how do people feel usually when they start?
I think a lot of people would agree, oh, that seems like a useful skill. But there is this intimidation factor where, and the example I always give, I have a good friend. I won't share his name, but he wouldn't care me telling this story. But his first jiu-jitsu class, he sat in the parking lot for 2 hours, just kind of working up the courage to go into the building. And this is not a weak individual. This is someone who's a really fit adult man who was scared to go to his first jiu-jitsu class. And I think a lot of people have that reaction, or at least initially. But once you get out there, there's this weird, realm where all these different people can exist and get along. It's like utopian almost, not to sound cheesy, but everybody can get along on a mat because we're all there for the same reason. And I think they would be shocked at the nerdiness of the people they meet there. And it's some of the best friends I have.
What it really reminds me of is this, like you said, kind of initially being scared of it, kind of reminds me of the whole concept of conflict, how I think that's physical contact kind of reminds, I think, people of conflict. It's this physical, physical feeling when you...
No, you're making the right connection. You know? I think you really are making the right connection, because the way I look at the jiu-jitsu or the combative type stuff is probably different than what people think. They think, oh, you're hurting people. And I'm really not. Jiu-jitsu is a Japanese word, but it's a funny little word that means gentle art. And the idea of good jiu-jitsu is that I can control another person without hurting them. So it's kind of an interesting concept. And we look at that as a conversation. So if you and I were doing jiu-jitsu, let's have a conversation, but please don't yell at me, And we flow and we train together. But it's the same way with any conflict. Conflict in itself has a bad rap. Like people look at it as like this thing to be avoided. I don't like that. It's uncomfortable and they don't want to do it. But really it's just communication. It's communication with the volume turned up. It's communication under pressure. Just like the jiu-jitsu, just like trying to control another person or trying to work with another person. That can be difficult. No lie. It could be very difficult. But it's just another form of communication. That's all it is.
Once you're there and you're in it and you start practicing it, jiu-jitsu or conflict, I feel like it loses the fear because
the fear factor
it's that
goes away.
Unknown.
Yeah, you get a little desensitized to it. And you're like, oh, it's not so weird to have this person touching me. It's not so weird to have this person have problems. And for a lot of people, it's so beneficial for obviously the physical aspects of exercise and things like that, but also the camaraderie and also the communication, because there's so many deep, meaningful conversations that happen there that don't necessarily get had anywhere else. And that goes right back to what we were talking about, the conflict resolution. Most of the time in these conflicts, I might have a conflict, and I've done this for years in law enforcement. I don't even necessarily know this person, but now we have a conflict. And that person doesn't know me, doesn't personally dislike me, other than maybe what I represent. But the issue there is really this person has a problem, and a problem that might not be understood or heard by anybody. And so my role as the other part of that dynamic is to hear that person, make them feel heard, and maybe we can problem solve together. So it's less of like if we got in an argument right now, I wouldn't try and win that. I would try to move forward with that together.
I like that. That's well said. How did you decide to talk on managing conflict with confidence?
Sure. Well, it was a topic that came up with the chamber, and we did a little workshop on it a few months back, and it went really well. It was a really good conversation. We talked about a lot of things. And I love doing Q&A at the end because people always have somebody always has a conflict with somebody else in their life. Everybody does. I think that's just part of living. And they're very specific scenarios. So doing a Q&A on that helps people out on a very personal level. So I love doing that. And in that conversation, we ended up talking about doing something like this for the larger business community. Because granted, not everybody in our area is going to be in a law enforcement scenario where that's really elevated, stakes, but everybody has some kind of conflict. So whether you're a supervisor that has to reprimand or maybe even fire an employee, that's a conflict. Or you're a coach that has to correct an athlete because that's your job, that's a conflict. And so navigating that water in a way that helps everybody involved, that can be tricky if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's so important and so needed. And it's not something always talked about, but I think it's something that everyone or anyone can really benefit from learning how to approach it. Because I think especially like in a workplace, when it's like your job, your life, it can be terrifying to address it because you'd be like, this could ruin my life. This could mess with my life.
Yeah, it could hurt your career. There's so many, and we can, doomsday it all day, but there's these external, things that can happen to you for not handling or avoiding it. There's also a lot of internal damage that can happen from trying to avoid conflicts with everybody around you. So I know a lot of people pleasers, they struggle with that. They just want to go with the flow. And that seems to resolve it, but it's not really. It's avoidance. So also not mentally a great option as well.
Yeah. I thought it was super interesting, the phrasing with confidence.
Yes.
Because you can always address conflict, but with confidence.
Right. And that takes reps. It's like anything else, like any skill you want. Repetition is the mother of all skill. So we have to do these things. And it's super awkward to practice that, to role play that. In the workshop, we're going to do a few exercises that maybe bridge that gap a little bit, so it makes it less weird. But you can practice these skills with your significant other, which is always a great idea because if you've ever been in a relationship, you know that happens. And anybody else in your life, you can just, hey, I would really like to practice this skill. Can you? And everybody's got some problem in their life. Just talk to them about it. If you just talk to people, you'll gain a lot of these skills and you'll get more confident in those reps. And that's a big part of what I teach is get the reps in, but also approach these things calmly. We want to be calm, but that's not always the right reaction or emotion. I don't want to necessarily match the other person's energy. If they're very manic or very angry, I don't want to match that. I want to bring them down to my temperature, but then I want to be calm and grounded for them. And that might be the rock that person needs in that moment. And it's not necessarily manipulation. It's just giving them something to hang on to when they're in kind of a tough spot.
Yeah, when it comes to those high intense or high stress situations, how do you remind yourself or the person you're around to calm down without intensifying further the emotions?
This sounds super simplistic, but one of the things I do, and I've given tons of speeches, and I the biggest speech I ever gave was in front of 14,000 people, and I'll write. I don't usually use cue cards a lot, like note cards, but I will take one and I'll write on it just one word: breathe. And so I take a big deep breath, blow it out, and then I take that kind of tactical pause and let that sink in, because I don't want to step on them and their thoughts. And I want to breathe, keep myself calm, and that kind of like centers me a little bit personally. But then keeping my voice at a level, keeping my cadence at a level. If someone's yelling, I'm not going to yell. If I'm yelling, the building's probably not on fire. You should probably run with me, but that's not usually the greatest way to manage a conflict. I want to bring them down to a nice calm level. And now that might not necessarily happen, but don't stray from the course. Like, stay where you're at. And eventually, especially things like anger or things that run really hot, they're going to fizzle out. And you just ride it out until they come back down to baseline. And then the reasonable person will reflect on that, like, man, they were calm the whole time. They're not trying to fight with me. They're not my enemy, which I'm not. I'm trying to help them. And I make that clear from the very get-go. One of the things you can do that's really simple, that you can do in the very next argument or confrontation you have, is clarify who you are, because we just met. I mean, you don't know who I am. I could be like, hey, I'm Isaac, and all I want to do today is help you with XYZ problem. Now, right from the beginning, they know, okay, this is a person, so I'm humanized in their eyes, and they know that I'm there to help them with their problem. So I think a lot of those things kind of baseline us as far as like staying calm. And then the other thing is to realize I don't have to necessarily be like cool as a cucumber the whole time. There's a skill I call calm face, where it's like, I don't want to be deadpan because that's weird, but I want to make sure my face stays calm, because our face and our nonverbals betray us all the time. And that, again, takes practice. And that's one of the skills we'll practice in the forum, is talking about something with a calm face.
When you're faced with a conflict, but say you can't get yourself to calm down physically in the moment, do you suggest stepping away for a bit, or is that something that usually doesn't really help when addressing a conflict?
Now, granted, every scenario is slightly different. And for my law enforcement friends out there, they know that they don't always get to step away. But in a workplace or something like that, where you don't feel like you could have a calm conversation yourself, or maybe they're not in a place or ready to hear that conversation, I think that's totally appropriate. Like, hey, and be honest about it. Hey, I need a moment, and step out, leave, take a walk, come back. And then when you're ready, you can go back to that conversation. You can revisit that. I mean, emergency situations aside, normal everyday conflicts have total room for that. That's totally fine.
Is there any like steps you would say to building confidence in conflict? Like you talked about first, repetition, having those reps in. Is
Sure.
there any other, I guess, like steps one would take to be on that path?
Yeah, I mean, the reps are always great, but what's tricky is like practicing a skill with lower stakes, and that can be very helpful and less stressful, right? If I showed you like a really crazy jiu-jitsu move and you're spinning and flying through the air, you'd be like, man, I'm never going to be able to do that. That's not the way to start. We start with really basic skills like, hey, this is how you stand. This is how you move your feet. And that's a lot easier. And then when we build up to those higher stake things, they're not as scary. We have those basic fundamentals and we can handle that more confidently. So a lower stake thing, you could talk to your kid about doing the dishes. You could talk to a coworker about something that's bothering you. Because really, a lot of those people in our lives we see on repeat. Their relationships. Of course, I used to work at the sheriff's office here, and I had a really great mentor, Rick Henry. He works up here at the university now, and he told me something years ago that I'll never forget. He said, everything we do comes back to relationships. So building those relationships to where they know, hey, this person, I trust them, I know them, this is what they're about. Like that can help in a big way. And part of that's being vulnerable. Sharing the things I'm not talking about oversharing, but sharing those things that are going on with your life with the people around you and not being that closed off person.
Yeah. I think that definitely helps when you're vulnerable, like you said, when you're open with people, because there is, you won't see everyone every day, but there are certain people that if you have a regular routine, you will see them. And so that's something, like you said, opening up, that kind of lets off some steam sometimes. And just like you said, it's a low stake thing, being able to be open with someone about something that's maybe not as big as a deal as something else that you might care about deeply, but it can be a way to, like you said, practice it and to become better at it. What is something that you hope people take away from this form?
I hope they start looking at conflict differently. I hope they start framing it differently, that it's just another form of communication and it's not avoidable. It's not really a negotiable thing. And I think we can really have better relationships with the people around us. Now, granted, like say it's a spouse or significant other, you really want to invest in that. And you really want to make sure those conflicts are resolved and make sure that you're really on top of that. If it's a coworker or somebody that we see occasionally, we don't have to be their best friend, but we do have to be a good person to them. So it's not necessarily like we're hanging out on the weekends, but I can still be a good person to them. And that's, I think, goes back to, just those basic communication skills where we talk about functionality and being kind. And a lot of times we confuse honesty and cruelty. People are like, oh man, I'm just an honest person. I just say it how it is. It's like, yeah, but you sound like a jerk. I hate that. I don't like that. I can tell someone something that is absolutely true, some truth that they need to hear because I care about them, because I love them, but I don't need to say it in a way that's cruel. And I make sure that they know that. Like, hey, I really care about you, and these are my goals for you. This is why I'm saying this, but here's the reality. And usually it's better received. Now, you can't control everybody's reaction to everything, but they can never deny your motives.
When it comes to this forum, say someone comes to it, they enjoy it, and they want to learn more, where would they go? Would they come to your jiu-jitsu class or?
I mean, I always love having new training partners, so I would love that. These are presentations that I give fairly regularly. I've been working with the chamber about giving them more often. So I'm sure we'll schedule more things out through the Chamber of Commerce. We have an educational series coming up, so we'll be doing that throughout the summer, and there'll be dates coming out for that. So I would really encourage people to attend that. Not to scare anybody away, but as we go through that, it'll be kind of a compounding course where I'll teach skills, give these really simple assignments, but they'll be fun. I promise they'll be fun, where they can go out and kind of experiment a little bit and bring those back and kind of share successes or failures. That's another thing people kind of get twisted a bit. They get twisted about failure. Nobody likes failing, and I'm not saying you have to, but it's kind of like part of the learning process. You're probably going to mess this up. I know I have. I've definitely messed up conversations with people or stuck my foot in my mouth and said the wrong thing, but it's part of trying to build a skill. So that's going to be part of our educational series going into the summer. So you can definitely come to that. That would be amazing to have more people at those. But also, if anybody needs a presentation like this, I'm always available. We can definitely go down to the micro level where it's one-on-ones all the way up to, like, say your staff needed to talk about an issue. Well, we can kind of walk through those waters together. I also do this. I teach up at College of Eastern Idaho at CEI. I teach at their police academy. I teach them a basic communications class. And I also teach at Idaho Falls, or not in Idaho Falls, but in Pocatello at Idaho State University at their police academy. I teach a basics communications class there as well.
That's awesome. Those are great opportunities, like you said, to learn further and to manage conflict with confidence.
Right.
This form you'll be giving June 17th. That's Wednesday, and it's at the Madison Health Center. No, Madison Health.
It's up at the hospital at Madison Memorial. So they have a great community room up there where they have classrooms, and they hold a lot of educational classes up there, if anybody was not aware. But yeah, go up to the hospital. That's where it'll be held.
Room 450.
I believe that's right. I just know where it is. I don't remember.
In the Madison Health Memorial Hospital.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah. So that will be something awesome for everyone or anyone to attend at 11:30 on that day. 11:30 a.m. Do you have anything else to add before we close?
I think just being there for people, I mean, as a community, that's kind of what we do. And so I think this fits well with our community values. I think it fits well with the school and its values. Those types of things where people can kind of come together. Man, that correlates with so much with what we all do. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this with everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I'm Abrielle Millett for BYU-Idaho Radio, and today I've been here with Isaac Payne. He's the owner of PAC Jiu-Jitsu, and he'll be speaking at the Business Skills and Networking Forum on June 17th from 11:30 to 1 p.m. And this is again at the Madisonhealth Memorial Hospital in room 450, managing conflict with confidence. So thank you so much for meeting with me today and speaking on this topic. I'm super excited for it.
No, thank you for having me.